Welcome, my dear student friends. In today's class, we will discuss about the topic what is control array used in Visual Basics. So let us start with the concept of control array. The difference between control array and array, we will also see the difference between control array and array. So if we can try to define the concept of array, so array is nothing but it is the linear collection of data elements. Okay, so how we can define a control array? So control array is nothing but it is a group of the controls with the same name and the same event procedure. So let us consider one example of control array. So we can apply or we can use the concept of control array on the intrinsic controls which are used in Visual Basic. So intrinsic controls are the controls which we can see once we open the Visual Basic screen on our computer or on our desktop. So picture box, image control, text box, label, all these are the intrinsic control. So for example, if we make the group of any one control, means let us consider if we consider more than one text box control in our form. So for n number of text box control in Visual Basic form with the same name properties of that control and for the event also we can create a control array. So control array is used for fewer resources. Okay, so this is the advantage of using control array in Visual Basic. Means instead of using or adding multiple control with the same type at the time of designing any project or at the time of designing any application, we use a single control with the concept of control array. So by using the concept of control array, we reduce the number of resources which are required to build any application or to build any project. Control array can be created only at design time. Okay, with the and the what is the basic requirement? The basic requirement is that to create any control array, we require at least one control. Okay, so the one thing that we should remember in our mind is that the control array is created or are created at the time of design only, not at the time of compilation. Yani we cannot create or we cannot use the concept of control array at the time of execution. That is most important point. So these are some of the advantages of control array. So the first advantage is control arrays are one of the most interesting features, as we have already discussed. The control array provides lots of flexibility to the programs of the users. Okay, as we belong the same control array that can share the same set of event procedure and the properties, so that's why it helps to reduce the amount of the code which we required to perform a specific action of the user. Means code reusability is one of the most important advantage of the control array. If we are not use a concept of control array, and if we take multiple text box or multiple label controls to design any program or to design any application in Visual Basic, so for the execution of that particular program or for the execution of that particular project, we required the number of line of code to get the output, specific output. But if we use the concept of control array, so it helps to reduce the amount of the code to respond the user action. Then user can dynamically add a new elements to the control array at the runtime. Once we create the control array at the design time, then user can add or the elements at the runtime also. Then Elements of the control arrays consume fewer resources than regular controls, as we have already discussed. The control array helps the user to consume less number of resources to execute a code or to execute a program. So in Visual Basic, the basic form can host up to 256 different control names. We can use 256 control names. But what about with control array? Control array count as one against this number. For example, if we use in regular, means if you are not going to use a concept of control array in our program, so we require the basic form host 256 control. But if we use the concept of control array, so instead of that 256 control, we use this one name against the same 256 number. Then the importance of control array is we can create the meaning it dynamically, and we can run or we can use or we can create a control at the runtime also. Means basically we create or we use the concept of control array at the design time, but we can add the element at the runtime, so which has the capability of adding new elements in using the control array at the runtime also. Then how many methods are there to create an array, control array? So basically there are three methods. So in through these three methods, we create a concept of control array in Visual Basic. The first method is we can just create a copy of instance of the control and paste it on the form. Then you just take a control and make the copy of that control and paste it on the form is the one method. The second method, and that is most important method, is we can assign the similar names for multiple control. So as we have already discussed, I have already explained you multiple control with the same name. Okay, and the third is method is we set non null index number for a control. So these are the three important methods through which we can create a control array in Visual Basic. In this video, we just see how to create a control array by assigning the similar name for the multiple controls. So let's see how we can create the control array in Visual Basic. For that, we just open the Visual Basic, then click on standard exe. Okay, so these are the controls which you can see on the left side of the screen. All these controls are called as intrinsic control. That intrinsic control includes pointer, picture box, label, text box, frame, command button, option button, check box, and many more control. So to experiment the concept of control array, let us consider one control, that is label control, and we just try to use one method of assigning same name for multiple controls in Visual Basic for the use of control array. So let us see one example. These are the two labels and these are the two text box. And one command button is there. Okay, you can set the caption property, name for the label 2, address, and set the text box property. Okay, and one is command button, that is okay. Now if you want to perform a specific action against the event, okay, so once I click on the code window, you can see whatever the control which I have considered while designing any application or while designing any program. You can see these are this can be independently, you can see. Okay, label 1, label 2, text 1, text 2. Okay, so here the concept of control array is not applicable in our form. Okay. Now you can check the name property of the control label 1. Okay. So you can see the name of the label 1 is as label 1. Then click on the another label and see the name property of label 2 as label 2. Okay. At initial level, when you take this control on the form, the name property of the control is different. But whenever you are trying to create the control array, you must have to set the same name property for the different control. So let's see it. We just select the label 1 and change the label 1 property as LBL. Okay. And then again select the another label and set the property name property as L, B and L. Okay. Once we try to set the same name property for the another control, say label 2. So once we set the same name property for the control, one message box will be one display message, the message will be displayed to you, and that message is you already have a control name, say label. Do you want to create a control array? So if you want to create a control array, so you just click on the yes button. Okay. Now let us try one more label control in your form. Add the label control, set the label caption property for the label control as class, and again set the name property as for that control as LBL. Okay. Now see, you can see already one I have created the label control array for the label control, and after creating the control array I just try to add one more label in the form and set the name property. Okay. So in this way, this is the one method through which you can create the control array in Visual Basic. Now again click on the view code. So before applying the concept of control array, the labels you can see independently. Okay. Now instead of that, it makes a group of same control. Okay. What happened with the what is the aim of using control array? The control array makes a group of the control. So all the label controls create one means the group of all label controls identify with one label and the name is LBL. So if you want to write a code for the three label control in the form, instead of using label 1, label 2 and label 3, now you can just use the LBL. Okay, you can write a code for LBL. So in this way you can create or you can use a label control array for a label control.